Got traffic there. Blaster, just take it up to the departure end of the runway, then a left turn and a lowest downwind. Cessna over the threshold, coming up on the white dot, at or beyond the white dot, left turn first available. I got a high wind coming up on about a half-mile final, clear to land at or beyond. Traffic on the left face, you're following a Cessna down, low off your left. Square it up just a little bit, and then we're going to get you in. Start your descent, though. Start your descent on the base. Traffic on final, give me follow on base. Base traffic, start turning toward the numbers now. High wing coming up on quarter-mile final, take it all the way down to the green. Cessna taxiing on the green, expedite down to the next hard surface. Get me some speed, there you go, go fast. This is going to be good. I got traffic on a mile final. You're following traffic ahead and to your right. High wing coming up on the threshold. Take it all the way down to the green dot.
5 Charlie Sierra, 2 mile final.
A mile final, turn north, and we're going to just make you, we're going to bring you back around. Jet traffic's coming up on about a mile and a half final. Runway 9 clear to land.
Okay, all right, let's listen up, guys. If you're on final for runway 9, I want you offset to the left. I got a jet that's landing on runway 9. The jet's cleared to land runway 9 if you can make it. If not, just continue straight ahead. It looks like you're going around for the jet. That's fine.
Oh, we had one right in front of us, sir.
Dragger. Let's see, what we got, a tricycle, put it down. Tricycle, put it down. Tail dragger, down to the green dot, then a left turn. Short final here, you click land on 9, all the way to the white dot, go down to the white dot. Find somebody to follow out here. Canard, just come to the runway and I might have to just send you around. That'll be fine. And for the jet, you just want to stay in this pattern or you want to go back out for an instrument approach?
Stay in a pattern, Charlie Sierra.
All right, just stay with me here for a minute. And my tail dragger, let's see, over the numbers, go down to the green. And Canard's going to have to go around. Canard, go around. And my high wing here over the runway, keep it airborne. You do not descend. You got a fast guy behind you. Do not descend. There you go. Keep it airborne. As soon as the guy behind you gets slowed down, I'm going to put you down. So keep it airborne. The one that just passed the white dot, make a left turn on the hard surface. All right, my high wing tail dragger, you can put it down now. And Charlie Sierra, let me get you about a mile off. Let's see, Charlie Sierra, lost. There you are. Make a left-hand turn. I'll try to resequence you here on the downwinds. We'll see how it looks. Short final, you're clear to land runway 9 on the white dot. There you go. And the tricycle left on the hard surface and follow the flagman. Welcome. Thanks for being part of the show. And let's see, just find somebody to follow on the final, and as you get close to the runway, if it's not going to work, we're going to send you around and then try to re-sequence you. Now, who else got sent around that's not back on the downwind? The Canard?
Yeah, Canard.
All right, Canard, there's a Gulfstream up there that went around too. I just lost sight of him, but you're going to make kind of a left-hand turn and stay low. I think Charlie Sierra, what's your altitude?
3,200.
Okay, that'll be fine. Just maintain VFR. I don't know what else is up there above you. Probably most everybody's down here, so just make a left-hand turn. We'll try to get you back here.
Canard's got the jet in sight.
Okay, the RV, maybe an RV-10, whatever, here on final. Keep your speed up and go all the way down to the, aim for the green dot for me. Actually, keep your speed up. There's a guy behind you. Aim for the green dot, and I'm sure that's plenty of room for you to land on runway 9. You're clear to land on runway 9. Number 2, you're going to go down to the white dot. Follow the white dot. Actually, you know what? That's 1,500 feet. You're going to land at the white dot. The spacing looks adequate here. 2 guys on final. You're kind of tight there. Keep each other in sight, and you're going to aim for the white dot. If it's not going to work, we'll come up with a plan B. We might have to send you around. The second guy behind you out there in about a 2-mile final. Are you slow enough to be able to follow that guy in front of you? You need to go around.
Yeah, follow.
Well, I probably shouldn't ask that because I had about 5 guys answer me, so I should know better than that. After 35 years, you would think, right? All right, so let me see. The guy who's number 1, it's number 1. What kind of airplane is he? An RV type. All right, RV type. Keep it airborne for me. Keep it airborne. And I got a fast guy behind you. The number 2 guy over the trees there. Go ahead and put it down on the numbers. My first guy just coming up on the numbers at the over the grass at the numbers. I want you to keep it.
T-minus 1 minute and counting.
Hello.
Four, 3, 2, 1.
Hello.
Hello.
Hello and welcome to tonight's live stream. Ian's still away on holiday, so we've got Dave White, standing in for Ian, and we have Sarah, or it could be the other way around. We have Sarah standing in for Johnny, and Johnny's off on holidays. I think he's in New York, which is very fun for him. So, how is everyone?
Very well.
Good.
Very good.
Yeah. Good stuff. So it's up to us to keep you entertained. Coming up, we've got the weather, the news, and waiting in the green room is tonight's guest, Carol Cooper, who's one of the UK's most experienced flying instructors. But before all of that, it's time to say thanks to our sponsors, SkyDemon, the UK's most popular planning and navigation app. If you're one of the rare people who haven't tried it yet, why not give it a go? There's a 30-day free trial. And tonight's top tip is from Rob. And here we go, if I can find it.
Hi, I'm Rob from SkyDemon, and here's another top tip. After planning a route in SkyDemon, you'll notice the Warnings tab appear here. This is arguably one of the most useful features in the app, since it gives an easily digestible list of airspace which conflicts with your plan. Tapping the little binoculars icon here, we'll zip the map over to the conflict so that we can make an adjustment. Now we have no problem with Bristol CTA, but Merrifield Mats is a concern. Let's plan to fly over this one, removing it from the list as well. Once you have worked down this list, you can be confident that your journey either avoids airspace or that any airspace interactions are deliberately part of your plan. For more information, check out our website or our user manual from within the app.
That is brilliant. I didn't know it did that.
Rob is the king of cool, isn't he?
Rob, he just know that music and Rob they're like intrinsically linked now. He knows his place. But I've got to say, Warnings on SkyDemon, I'm sure if I clicked on that tab, SkyDemon would say to me, "Do you know what you're doing?"
You don't know what you're doing is what it says to me.
Yeah, I've assessed your flying. I'm not sure you really know what's going on.
It's auto Carol.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, auto Carol. Well, that's great. And anyway, Simon's not with us tonight, but he has sent some recorded weather, and there is some talk of snow. So here's your weather for the next few days.
Hi everyone, sorry I can't be with you live this evening, but I'm out here at Heapney Green this afternoon, and wow, it's pretty chilly in this wind. It looks like it's going to be pretty chilly as well through the weekend, and yes, there probably is going to be some snow perhaps towards the end of the weekend and into the early stages of next week. Not for everyone though, but certainly is going to be there. And if you're planning on flying early next week, do keep a very careful watch on the forecast, because freezing levels will be low. There could be some heavy snow showers around at times, and we'll get some embedded QNIMs too. So this is how things shape up for the weekend though. This is tomorrow. High pressure in control still. Got a light north and northeasterly wind across most areas. There'll be broken cloud around, a little bit like this really. I think generally bases around 4,000 feet, tops at 6,000 feet. Always more cloud in the east, and it looks there as if we could find bases of 3,000 feet with the tops about 6,000 feet. Now into Saturday, similar conditions really. Maybe a few early morning mist or fog patches at first, but generally it looks as if it is going to be a generally fair day. Broken cloud again, bases 3,000 to 4,000 feet for most, tops at about 7,000 feet. Now Sunday looks much messier. Take a look at this with that area of low pressure getting into Scotland. You see there those areas of wintry showers surrounding the area of low pressure as well. I think that really more indicative of the fact that it is going to be a more mixed day. We'll get some Q. We may have some embedded QNIM around in places. Most of any showers, and these will be wintry by then, across northern England, across parts of Wales, across parts of Scotland as well. Bases around 2,000 to 3,000 feet in those, but the tops about 15,000 feet, whereas across southern England the showers more scattered. Tops about 3,000 to 4,000 feet, or bases about 3,000 to 4,000 feet tops. at about 12 to 15,000 feet and feeling pretty darn cold by the time we get towards Sunday as well. So lots to be watching out for as we go through this weekend. Don't forget that I've got a single place remaining on Aviation Weather School on the 22nd of March. This is my midweek course. So this is going to run from 10 a.m. until 4 p.m. on Wednesday, the 22nd of March. Not very often that I do a midweek course, so this is your chance to perfect your weather knowledge, be able to predict up to 5 days in advance and spot those all-important weather windows before the new flying season begins. Okay, I'll leave you with that for now. Have a great flying weekend, and from Halfpenny Green, it's bye for now, and I'll see you next week.
Richard Kennedy says, have you noticed that Simon's never here in person when he has bad news? Is that
I like that.
It's looking like it's going to be a bit chilly. So,
Yeah.
Yes. And can anyone work out that the ECMWF ensemble now has this further east?
Something about the Avengers movie, isn't it?
I don't know.
That's it.
Could well be. Could well be. Sarah, have you got a club update for us?
Yes, I do. So it is the beginning of March, and if you're not a member already, join the Flyer Club today. For just £5 a month, you've got access to all the exclusive content, unlimited number of articles, and a live stream extra on a Wednesday. On top of that, you get landing vouchers every month, which leads me to go on to this month's landing vouchers. So we've got 5 for you this month, and they are at Brayton, I hope I've said that correctly, Leicester, Yatesbury, Northcote and Perth. So a good mixture. So if you join today, you'll get to use those this month. Also, we've got a monthly webinar on a different topic from industry experts. And if you join today, you can still access the webinars that were in January and February. So what are you waiting for, guys? Join the Flyer Club, £5 a month. That's all we're asking, and you get all this good stuff.
Brilliant. Yeah, and a good spread of landing fees this month.
Yeah.
And
Thanks to Bullies.
yes, thanks to Pulleys. Some good money to be saved. Right, so news. Dave, I think you're up first with some Roban news.
Yeah, it's a bit of a mixed fortune story. Roban Aircraft has entered what they call protected financial status. In the States, they call it Chapter 11. It's not bankruptcy. It's not that at all. But it's a kind of stage where the company, because it's having a cash flow problem, is kind of protected by the state. It's come about because Roban is going through a WingSpar AD, Airworthiness Directive, at the moment. And it's been a bit slow to get going. It's a big thing for them. On the website, we have a little video and description about what this WingSpar issue is about, and it's really the fact that they, out of every batch of WingSpars they produce, they open up one of the batch to check that it's all okay, and if it's not okay, then they have to open up every other one in the batch. But for some reason, and if they're not okay at all, they have to go back to be redone. And unfortunately, some of these just went through the production system and got fitted to a production aircraft. It's something to do with glue not bonding correctly. Anyway, so Roban have entered this protected financial status, and we really hope, I mean, they are already receiving some state aid. They don't call it in France, of course, because that's not allowed under the EU, but they find a way around that. And we really hope, I mean, there's a lot of goodwill towards Roban aircraft, as they make aircraft a very traditional way, and they make some very lovely aircraft. I've had some great fun flying Roban aircraft.
Yeah, and just recently they announced the Rotax 912 IS powered DR401, didn't they? So
That's right, yeah. I mean, if you go to any flying club in France, they will have several on the fleet.
yeah,
Yeah.
I think we were looking back at their history, and they've been pretty much continuous. There was the period when they were definitely out of production, 2008 to 2012, but pretty much they've always been a staple of being around. And I'm kind of hopeful that this is just a momentary blip, and they'll come back out of this and carry on being the Roban that we know. So
yeah, because it's not just Roban, of course. They also produce cap aircraft these days. So, yeah, they haven't confirmed it, but I would imagine that's affected as well in terms of, like, they're not able to do much work on that.
No, definitely. So, yeah, bad news. Dave, tell us about Safe Sky Turkey.
Safe Sky. Well, Safe Sky, people may know, is an app that provides internet-based traffic information. It aggregates ADS-B, Open Glider Network, FLARM, and also anything that you yourself are providing in terms of position and GPS altitude from your smartphone. It aggregates it all together, retransmits it, and if you've got Safe Sky app on your phone or tablet, it will give you all of the traffic that is transmitting either Safe Sky or one of those other systems out, so that you've got some idea where you are. Why is that useful? Because Turkish Air Force Search and Rescue have been offered Safe Sky by the app provider in order to provide earthquake relief and critical medical assistance in the sad events that are happening over there. Very good initiative.
Yeah,
brilliant. And I guess that's help kind of working across the phone network there, isn't it? So nothing kind of too specialist required to make that happen.
No, and I think mobile phone infrastructure is becoming so important anywhere in the world, because even places without landline nowadays in Africa and the like have got very good mobile phone systems. They leapfrog the fixed infrastructure.
Yeah, brilliant, excellent stuff. Dave, some CAA news.
Yes, you may be aware that CAA is sort of holding an airspace modernisation consultation at the moment. That was due to have ended, but it's been extended for another couple of weeks because there's been so much interest in it. At the same time as announcing the extension, they also announced there's a next round of funding available to help support airspace, airspace modernisation projects. Excuse me, I'm just dying here. So the CAA statement says airspace modernisation is essential to making sure that the UK national infrastructure is fit for purpose, and the Airspace Modernisation Support Fund will provide much needed support to help achieve that goal. It's open to provide support to eligible projects, and there's more about it on the CAA website. I've got a link on the story on the website, which we can put into the comments here. But projects previously funded by this fund have included those looking at reduced aircraft noise, electronic conspicuity, and improved flight information displays. Stuart Lindsay, head of airspace modernisation at the CAA, said, "We're delighted to launch this year's first call for proposals, which will provide vital financial support to any airspace modernisation project that aims to improve the safety, efficiency and sustainability. There will be another call for projects later in the year, apparently, so if you're not quite ready at the moment, stay tuned, it'll be more later."
Right. John Milner says, does that mean we get EGNOS back?
That's a different question, John.
Maybe if they use some of the funding, perhaps. And interestingly, I hadn't heard this, but John Park says, and the CAA CEO is leaving. He's gone. Steve Slater's got a good idea. I'll follow him.
All right.
I don't know. I hadn't heard this. So
we haven't heard that. No.
Yeah, John, where did you hear it? Yeah, fantastic. Okay.
That's Richard Moriarty, isn't it?
Sorry?
That's Richard Moriarty, isn't it?
I think it is Richard Moriarty. Yes. As Ian would say, the invisible man of the CAA. Yes. Here we go. We've had a suggestion. Only if, perhaps this is why he's been away for 3 weeks. Only if the new CEO is boss man speaker. Oh my God. Can you imagine?
No.
He could have this, you can imagine this parallel dimension where he could rant at himself. Paul Fraser Benison says, replaced temporarily by Rob Bishton and Paul Smith. Okay, cool. Right, Beaver news from me. So this is news that there's a diesel Beaver flying now. So this is a Beaver powered by a V12 diesel engine. It's been developed by Canadian operator Sealand Aviation, and they've just flown it from their Campbell River Regional Airport base. It's the Red A03 V12 Jet A compression ignition engine, and it produces 550 horsepower. It replaces the Beaver's Usual engine, which is the delightful Pratt & Whitney Wasp, which is 450 horsepower. And that's been in the Beaver since 1953. Sealand said the V12 Beaver had a remarkable short takeoff distance and a steep climb, and they feel the Jet A solution is the answer to future 100 LL restrictions, and probably also pretty useful having Jet A fuel in kind of more difficult to get to spots. So Sealand installed the Red A03 in their facilities on Vancouver Island. And they're an airframe specialist with Beaver. They do a whole bunch of conversions, modifications, and maintenance. And this team up with Red has been all about making this happen. And they're hoping to produce an STC for other operators. And well, it looks great, and it's a massive old chunky diesel. But I still love a Beaver with a radial, I feel.
That's a huge, very ugly air intake at the front, isn't it? They could do something about that.
I don't know. This is
in krill.
It's like a giant whale, isn't it? I'm guessing it's got at 550 horsepower. It's got a lot of cooling to do.
Yeah, it's also going to consume a lot of air as well. So
interesting stuff. Sarah, you've got from vintage aeroplane with modern diesel engine to completely brand new technology. Tell us about this eVTOL distance record.
Yeah, so this is news from Augsburg, Germany, just today. The flight actually took place on the 23rd of February, but they just announced today. So the global eVTOL Pioneer Autoflight achieved the world's longest flight. The flight was performed by Autoflight's Generation 4 aircraft, and the distance covered was 250 kilometers, so 155 miles, on a single charge of the aircraft's lithium-ion battery. The flight consisted of 20 circuits on a fixed flight track. And I watched the YouTube video, and they didn't lie. It just went round and round in circles. So as well as using its own avionics, the flight was also recorded on ForeFlight just to record and verify the distance completed. This is a big achievement, and it's recognized as the longest fully electric aircraft flight in history so far, where the aircraft has taken off and landed vertically. So they are hoping to have an airworthiness certificate in 2025 with the EASA.
Oh wow, that's quite preppy, isn't it? That's really
it's not far away.
No, and you never play the disclose a year game when you're trying to certify things, do you? And interestingly, I think they bested the previous record, which was Joby, also flying round in circles, and I think Joby was 248 miles. So do you think they got to like 247, and they're like, come on, just a few? There's like just a few more.
Yeah, I did see that, and I thought, well, there's not much in it, is there? But apparently, Autoflight is one of the only few eVTOLs who have successfully managed to master the challenge that comes from transitioning from vertical to horizontal flight. So it uses the rotors to lift the aircraft vertically, and then it transitions to horizontal flight on the wing, so like a traditional airplane. And that part of the flight is called fixed wing cruise.
Yeah, because it looks like, I guess that's going to save the most power, isn't it, when it's just being propelled normally? And that's a pretty racy thing, isn't it? So
Yeah.
I didn't really notice the wing, actually, until I read that and then had a look at it. I almost didn't notice the wing on either side.
Yeah, I know. I've got to say, there's been some eVTOL designs that come out and you go, no, not a chance, or it's just lunacy. But that kind of looks like a serious contender, and clearly, if they've got the range for this, then I guess we might see more of that. Dave, I know. Dave Jr., you're into a little bit to do with this kind of, you're kind of around the fringe of this technology, aren't you?
Around the fringes, yeah. It's an interesting looking airplane, isn't it? I think the trick is always going to be, what do you do at the other end to get yourself prepared to come back again? And it feels like dropping out batteries and replacing them that are already charged for the return trip might be a solution. I'm not sure an awful lot of the aircraft that are designed have got that currently in mind. Some of them do, and some of them are very well thought out indeed, I have to say. I think we'll see something. There's a niche though. They're not going to replace helicopters, for example, in orbit.
But this is not get to the end of your journey and then pull out some double A's, is it? These are some fairly hefty batteries.
Yes, yeah. As there's a few questions about who was in it. Nobody. It was all flown remotely. It was flown like a drone, if you like.
You see, I was playing with the photos and I didn't get to see the comments. But Richard Kennedy says, "Is 12 props a record too?" It has got quite a lot, hasn't it? Skype says, "That reminds me, I need a new blender."
The Volocopter eVTOL, which is also German, has got more than 12.
Best one though from Richard Kennedy is the lance on the front in case they miss you with the blenders. Yeah, I love it. That's great. So why would EASA certify that so fast and not the AW609, which is the tilt rotor, isn't it? Which has been in certification for like a gazillion years.
They've certified it as a military aircraft, haven't they? But it's just not certified for passengers.
Yeah.
And it's an immensely complicated aircraft. You think of all that, you've got gearboxes everywhere. You transition from vertical takeoff to horizontal flight. It's a big undertaking to do that on a regular, scheduled service.
Oh yeah, Stuart Roos says, "Isn't part of aviation not just range but payload? I add a pilot, that'll definitely help. That'll definitely take away from that, won't it? With this new eVTOL, if you can't take the payload, what's the point?" There we go. Good. Okay. Well, we've skipped nicely through news, which means it's time for our special guest. Sarah, you're up.
Oh, I thought it was me. No, I'm joking. So you have a special guest. Two special guests. Now we've got the lovely Carol Cooper. She's probably one of the most experienced flight instructors in the UK. She's working at Andrewsfield Airfield, and I'm sure a few people in the comments have mentioned already that they know her and have been sort of taught by her or had a trial flight by her, which is really, really great. So welcome, Carol.
Thank you. Thank you very much for inviting me on this evening.
Oh, thank you so much for coming. I know you're a very busy woman doing a lot of teaching.
Yes, I mean, that's been a full-time job now for 36 years. So, very busy teaching. And luckily, there still seems to be people who want to learn. So that's good, isn't it, for aviation? I know it's difficult times.
Yeah, no, that always helps. I mean, I'd love to start at the beginning. It's always the first question, and everyone wants to know how it all started for you. How did you get into aviation?
Well, I got into aviation in 1980 by purely going up with a friend. It wasn't something that I'd always wanted to do. I'm trying to think, 18, 19 years old, but scary stuff thinking how long ago it was. But once I went up in a plane and it was just a Piper Cherokee, I was hooked, and I really became a flying druggie, and I'm still a flying druggie. So that's good. All these years later, still love the flying. But at that time, I couldn't afford to fly. So I was just trying to get, some money together to have a lesson. I had about half an hour every 4 or 5 weeks, but slowly got there and got my PPL, and then thought, right, I've got to do this. How do I really earn money from flying? And in those days, as you can, it's come full circle. I went on to become an instructor, and been doing that ever since. So that's me, but started off doing basic PPL instructing, got involved with the usual things up the instructor ladder, which is to become a night instructor, teach for the IMC rating as it was then, and got more involved, and then ended up with a commercial license and teaching for the CPL, and then in teaching mostly instructors, which is principally what I do now. So training instructors and testing instructors, and also testing for commercial pilots as well. So done that.
So you're an examiner. So you're an examiner too?
Sorry?
Yeah, you're an examiner too, aren't you?
Yes, I am. So a lot of examining for PPL, for IMCIR rating, multi-engine ratings, and flying instructors and the associated ratings. So yes, I've done lots of things through flying, but met fabulous people. And that's the best thing about the job. I mean, a lot of people say to me, why didn't you go to the airlines? And I said, why would I? For me, I've got the best job in the world. I love the people and I love the flying. And so I've stuck with the instruction, and I'm also involved with running the flying club at Andrewsfield. So every day, usually everyday problems of running a club. One of the aeroplanes may have gone tech, or somebody's ill, and trying to sort out that as well as usual sort of business things. But still love the job, still love the flying, still love the people. And David Calderwood, who's on tonight, has been a victim in the past, haven't you, David? Doing your
I wouldn't say a victim, but I did my tail wheel training with you, Carol.
But scarily, we don't remember how long ago it was.
It was probably 24 years ago.
Yeah.
It's very scary.
I have to wonder how bad it was, because Carol called you David Calderwood, and that's...
I know. The only person who does that is my mum.
Sorry, Dave. Yeah. But, yeah, I mean, through instructing and the amount I've done, I've become very interested in, safety. Obviously, safety is paramount in aviation, and it's should be everybody's number one. And through that, I've become very interested in the sort of training and testing of emergencies, which is something I think Sarah suggested that maybe we have a little chat about tonight, and how we handle them, how we teach them, how we prepare for them, etc. But Sarah, have you got anything else you'd like me to answer now?
I was just going to ask you really what's been your hairiest moment in flying, and how many times have students tried to kill you? But that probably ties in with emergencies and whatnot. So however you'd like to answer.
Well, not very many. So that's good, isn't it, for everybody online with us tonight, because I'm sure you will regularly take passengers. And, I haven't had that many scary moments. And I was asked this question a little earlier, and I said one was somebody freezing on the controls, which is quite a scary moment when you're a teacher, especially if they are bigger and stronger than you are. So that was a scary moment. And that's one that I will remember. But other than that, I haven't really had too many scary moments. So that's nice.
So
that's good, considering how many years it's been.
Yeah.
Can I ask, in 20, so you've been instructing for 27, was it 23,000?
36 years. I know that because it was recently that I qualified as an instructor in 87.
And in all your tens of thousands of hours, regular PPLs like us are always like fearful of things like engine problems, engine failure, things like that. Have you ever had any, in all those hours, any real life emergencies?
I've had problems, yes, problems with aeroplanes. I've had one engine failure, but I was in a twin, so I had a spare. But overall, I say I've had a number of problems. It makes it sound if all the aeroplanes are no good, but various other things, stuck throttle, various partial power problems, losing one, sort of flying on 3 cylinders instead of 4, avionics packing up, and low voltage or voltage problems and that. But no, I have, touch wood, and I'm saying touching my wooden desk now, not yet ended up in a field because the engine has stopped completely.
Okay. Partial power is an interesting one, isn't it? Because I think do you think partial power makes people kind of, that they don't instantly go for the drills and they think, oh, I'll try and stretch it, or, it makes them possibly act in a weird way?
Well, I think we don't train for it enough. So most people, when they go up on their tests or their refresher training, they're going to do a practice force landing. They know they're going to get it. You brief for it, so they're kind of ready for it. And then the examiner or the instructor closes the throttle and says, ha, your engine's failed, and you get on with the drill. But of course, in a lot of cases, and I've asked this question to numerous instructors I've tested and trained, have you had an engine problem or have you had a failure? And often it's partial power, and statistics show that's 3 times more likely to happen than the engine actually failing. And it gives you extra decisions. Is the aircraft capable of flying on the amount of power you've got? Do you know? I mean, I'm sure there's guys online now. Do you know how much power you would need to comfortably maintain level flight in the aeroplane that you fly regularly? A lot of people don't, and I don't blame them, because it doesn't get taught and it doesn't get tested. So that's something I feel that me with my emergencies hat on as my hot topic would really like people to hot up on. And of course, Ed, it gives you extra decisions. You know, if your engine completely fails, one decision is made, you're going down, it's just where. But of course, if you've got partial power, then, you know, can you fly it? Can you make it? Can you stretch the, you know, stretch? And of course, nobody wants to end up in a field. You know, think of the inconvenience. You're not where you want to be, all the paperwork. So, you know, it's one of those things that I'd like to raise awareness of.
Cool. Okay. Well, it's probably a good time to launch into your bit about emergency situations, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, when Sarah asked me about coming on tonight, and I thought, well, this might be a good opportunity to maybe just get people thinking about various problems that they've had or they could have in their airplane, which isn't necessarily the full-blown engine failure or engine failure after takeoff. And I believe that EASA is bringing in mandatory training for partial power after takeoff, i.e. what happens if you get airborne and then you end up with a partial power situation. And I'm hoping that the UK CAA will follow suit if that does happen. I'm just not sure on the timing on that, because again, you get airborne and something happens and you don't end up with full power, you've got partial power. What are you going to do? Do you know? Now, maybe you do a sort of eventualities pre-takeoff brief to yourself, if you're a single crew pilot, which we all are, to say, right, this is what I'm going to do if something happens. But maybe you don't, or you haven't really thought about it until it happens. And of course, I'm sure some of you online have heard of the startle factor. And it's supposed to be up to 7 seconds that it can take you to realize that something's gone wrong or something is going wrong. And what are you going to do about it? Now, 7 seconds is quite a long time. If you go flying in your own plane and you're just up there, just sort of maybe just count 7. It's a long time. And of course, if you've done a sort of briefing before you've taken off to remind yourself of what you're going to do, it will reduce that startle factor. So maybe you can get on and do the right things, take your actions a little bit sooner than if you haven't thought about it. So partial power after takeoff is one to consider for all you guys who are maybe getting your planes out after a winter of not flying, or getting checked out because you need to get back into club flying as hopefully the weather gets a bit better. Although from the forecast we had earlier, if it's snow next week, we probably won't be getting in. It'll be a bit chilly for those days. But yeah, it's something for you to think about. And also another thing is decision making. I think maybe a lot of people think, well, you're a pilot, so you can make a decision. You know, you must be able to one, because how can you qualify as a pilot if you can't? But decision making is actually something that you need to have the training and the knowledge to make a good decision. It's and therefore, if you haven't had the training, because maybe we're not flying regularly because it's been a long time and it's the winter, and of course finances are maybe being stretched, so you're not flying as much as you used to or you'd like to, and so you know you haven't maybe had as much training as you might have had, then maybe you know you won't make the right decision if something goes wrong. And you know, one thing, if something is going wrong, is not to rush into it. Just stop for a moment and think, you know, give yourself time to assess the situation. It's very easy to rush in and think, right, this is what I've got to do. And actually, it wasn't the right thing. And of course, the easiest course of action is always to do nothing and hope we can go on and carry on and it'll all be all right. And if you have made some decisions about what you're going to do regarding a certain problem, is it still the right decision? Don't think you can't change it later on if something's getting worse. So maybe you've got a fuel leak. I'm just inventing a scenario. Maybe you've got a fuel leak and you think, okay, well, it's not too bad. I might be able to get back to base, but actually it's getting worse. You know, would you make the right decision to say, right, I'm going to go to the nearest airfield now, or would you try and carry on? I know, you know, we call it get-home-itis, etc. It's very easy. Everyone wants to get home, you know, be where they want to be, those sort of things. So I think, you know, if you're getting back into flying or, you know, getting ready to go flying or going flying, maybe you do fly regularly, but certainly there's things to think about. And partial power after takeoff, and generally partial power, there are things that we don't train for and we don't practice. So scenarios I like to give if I'm training or teaching or testing is, rather than just saying, okay, you've had an engine failure and closing the throttle, is saying, right, I'm going to set a scene where you've got high oil temperature and low oil pressure. What actions are you going to take? So people have to think, what are they going to do? Are they going to shut the engine down? Are they going to leave it running and see how far they get? Are they looking for oil? Are they anticipating the engine might seize? Do they not really know what that means? So it's, you know, easier to lead into an emergency that way. And then if I need to do a forced landing because it's part of the test, I can then close the throttle and say, right, now your engine's failed. But I've led a scenario into them. They have to think. Engine fire drill, again, when did you last practice that? Most people don't do it. So, you know, I could say, right, sudden simulated engine fire. Do you know what to do? You know, and different ways of, rather than just going, engine's failed and closing the throttle. So that's something to think on before you go flying again. Maybe you could ask your instructor, if you're getting checked out, to do some different things to what you normally do. So just some different emergencies and maybe practice those. I don't know if that's, I've just written a few notes down here about, you know, if your engine coughs and spits rather than just stops, you know, what might you do? What, you know, would you be thinking about where's the nearest airfield? Would you know? How long would it take you to sort it out if you felt you need to divert? I know a lot of people fly around with Sky Demon, and why not? It's an excellent piece of kit, and I've got it. I'm sure we've all got it. And I saw at the beginning the top tip there, but you know, do you know how to go the direct to on your Sky Demon, take to the nearest airfield, and would that airfield be suitable? So you know, those are a few things that I've sort of thought about. I don't know if anybody's got any questions or anything they like to ask me about it.
There are lots of questions, Carol.
Okay.
That's all right.
Shut up, man. We have some questions.
No. It's been good listening to you talking. Richard Kennedy says, I wonder if Carol has noticed a change in the demographic of ab initios. Are they getting older?
Well, at the club where I work, there are still lots of young people who are desperate to fly. And we do have a fair number of youngsters, but that's a difficult one to ask. I mean, the oldest person I ever started to teach to fly was 86. So don't ever think you're too old. But I'm trying to think on the answer to that one. Maybe a little bit, but it's difficult to say. We're in difficult times at the moment. And I know that people are obviously a little bit careful about probably how much they spend on their hobbies. And you can all understand that. So I'm not totally sure it's the answer to that one. Sorry, not to have any facts and figures to hand.
No worry. Annabelle C asks, what advice would Carol give herself as a new instructor if she could go back?
Oh, well, just do it. I still made the right decision to train. So if I hadn't become an instructor, I don't know what I would have become. I never thought I would get into aviation, but no, I definitely made the right decision to do it. I was very lucky to get a job at Andrewsfield, which is, I live close by and where I learnt. So yeah, I'm very happy that I became an instructor and stayed instructing. And I'm so glad I did it. Very lucky. And if anybody out there is thinking about being an instructor, and you'd like to and you can do it, go for it, because it's a great job. And if anybody needs to speak to me, outside of this about it, more than happy to chat, because I'm such an enthusiast for teaching.
Fantastic. But Jane Gifford says here, one way Carol ensured safety was when on finals, if I did not do everything properly, then I owed her a cider. Harsh teaching.
Oh, well, I look after that. Yes, I mean, I think it's probably negative instructing, but it works on a few people, Ed. Jane's got a good memory too.
Peter Cox says, does Carol like printed checklists, or should pilots know them by memory?
I work from a checklist, Peter. Every time I fly, even the number of flights I do, I work from a checklist, because I'm sure most of your people listening in tonight have heard of the term threat and error management, and how we are trying to identify any threats to our safety before we go flying, or errors that we could make that could affect our safety, and manage them so we have a safe flight, which of course is paramount. And using a checklist manages loads of threats. So I personally use a checklist. Now, I know that some aeroplanes don't, some very simple types, people learn the checks and they can do them. But for me, who's jumping from different types of planes, although nothing complicated, for me, it's just better for me to work from a checklist.
Very good. Ian, of course, when you were talking about partial power, Ian, who instructs up in Scotland, he said there's a very good Australian publication on partial power that we use. So while you were talking, I went and Googled that. So there's a link, and it does look pretty good. And I think, that's worth checking out. Tom Watson says partial power has got to be one of the trickiest situations, as it often leads to a pilot not committing to a pre-takeoff plan. And the pre-takeoff plan, some people I fly with, will talk through what they're going to do. Some people, I have to admit, I don't often do that, perhaps except when I'm on a biannual check. But do you think that's something that's underrated? And knowing what you're going to do on a takeoff every time is useful.
Yeah, I think, and it's not only that the aeroplane might go wrong. I mean, I've been involved in airspace infringement, sort of retraining, and people have got themselves into airspace because their passengers have got totally overexcited as soon as they've got airborne. They haven't maybe ever been in a light plane before, and they're just thinking, oh, wow, what's that, and distracting the pilot. And before he knew it, he busted controlled airspace and got the letter from the CAA. And it wasn't that he didn't know where he was, or, it was purely distraction because his passenger was just getting overexcited. So if that had been in the briefing, look, please, once we're airborne, just keep quiet till I put my hand up or something, because it's a tricky part of flight, we're near airspace, that might not have happened. So sort of thinking ahead, it could be something as simple as that, not necessarily something going wrong with the aeroplane, but if something does go wrong with the aeroplane, the more ready you are, you've got to have a better chance of sorting it.
Very good. Fiona McCaskill asks, which bits of the syllabus, the PPL syllabus, do you dislike, and which extra bits would you like to add?
Gosh, which do I dislike? That's a difficult one. I mean, I know that we're all on a limited time to learn, and because flying's so expensive, a lot of people are trying to get through in minimum hours. So therefore, I'm trying to think what I dislike. I mean, as I said, the bits that I'd like to add was better training on emergencies, even simple things like, okay, what would you do if the brake failed now and you're taxiing out, maybe in your plane? If you haven't really thought about it, or I haven't had the training, at the time it happens, then the startle factor might kick in and it could result in you hitting another aircraft, so that sort of thing. So I'm really hot on trying to raise awareness of different problems with the aeroplane and going through maybe one in each flight when you're learning. But what do I dislike about the syllabus? Can't think of anything I really dislike about the syllabus.
Sorry, Dave, go.
Using the whiz wheel?
Oh, well, the whiz wheel. That's a good one. Now, you know, we're in a crossover world here between people who would probably look at the whiz wheel and think, what on earth is that? And people, you know, all of us who've learned using it. And yeah, where do we go with it? You know, we're also in a situation where people are flying around totally relying on GPS, and that goes wrong. So there's those probably bits of dislike about syllabuses, that the CAA won't give us really good guidance on how we should integrate the use of GPS into training. I think they should give more guidance. We do it. We teach people to use it, and they go on solo cross countries with GPS. I'm not quite sure how widespread that is amongst PPL schools, but we're very close to controlled airspace. So I think maybe that's something I dislike, is lack of clarity on training with GPS, and whether we should be teaching everybody to use the whiz wheel, we forget the whiz wheel and move on, and relying on everything on our mobile phones. But generally, you know, there's lots of people have learnt to fly, and how fantastic. I'm guessing most of the people listening are pilots or training to be pilots. And how lucky are we? You know, how lucky are we to be up there flying?
Just one thing on the syllabus, Carol. I'm guessing there was spinning doesn't feature very strongly, or doesn't feature at all now, does it? I'm guessing there must have been a time when you taught, when you still would have instructed spinning?
Yeah, I mean, when I learnt to fly, you had to do spinning during the course, and you had to spin on your test, what's now the skills test. But before I became an instructor, which is in 1987, they had removed spinning from the syllabus as a mandatory item. It's still in there, and you know, you could ask your instructor, could we do some spinning? And that still does happen. And some people do spinning and think, wait, I'd like to do some more. Others think, well, I've seen it, I never want to do it again. And some people say, no, I'm not doing that, I don't have to. And to be honest, I think there's lots of more than capable, safe pilots who've never done a spin. I know there's some instructors who think, oh, it should still be in the syllabus and we should still train it and teach it. But accidents showed there were more spin-related accidents during training than people inadvertently getting into a spin and not being able to get out. So that's the main reason it was removed as a mandatory item. And they introduced slow flight. They slotted that in before stalling so that hopefully people would, early recognition, if you like, people would recognize that they were approaching the stall before they actually stalled it. And that, you know, would be as good as hopefully never getting in a spin. But I don't know whether statistics show it was a good move or it wasn't a good move. I know Gasco did some, looked at stall spin related accidents over a number of years to see if the situation was improving. And they did prove that the turning onto final and the final approach stall were now, I think, less, there was less accidents caused by that because we pushed that training so hard. And everybody, I'm sure, listening in has done those stalls because they were mandatory in tests. And now it's more departure problems that are causing bigger issues because we didn't practice so much stalls on departure or leading in to things that can go wrong on departure.
Dave D asks, do instructors get any training and CPD in how to instruct? In my profession, it's known as teaching the teachers.
Yes, they do. On the instructor course, they do get training on, as he says, teaching the teacher, or teaching and learning, as it's called. It's a core course that they do get, yes.
Cool, okay. Guys, any other questions you can think of?
I've got a question, but the first thing is that thing about CPD. I did a CRI course, which is now expired. I need to get it back, so I might give you a ring, Carol. But I found that the most difficult part of the CRI course, which is being so short, is that skill, and it's a real skill in learning how to teach. I think getting the ability to pass information over clearly and quickly to a student whilst you're also in the air, to me, was by far the hardest part of the CRI course. And I spoke to my instructor about it, and he made the point that there's an awful lot of effort put into the flight instructor, the proper FI course in that area, and I can understand why. Anyway, that was me banging on. My question, Carol, was nothing to do with instruction, but going back to what you were saying about your enthusiasm for flight. How well do you remember the details of your first solo, yours?
I remember it like yesterday. I'm sure everybody does. I'm sure I got up there and I was petrified and thought, I've got to get down, you know. So I suppose nervous anticipation. Yeah, definitely really nervous once I got airborne because, you know, I'm up there in charge of an aeroplane and I've got to get down and it's coming down somewhere, isn't it? But I mean, I suppose, you know, you're sort of ready for it because you've done the training. But yeah, I mean, I think I do remember it. I was in a Piper Cherokee 140 and I was catching up a Cessna, a little 150, and I was thinking they never taught me overtaking. So I do remember sort of slight panic, but they told the Cessna to get out of my way because there was a student on first solo, and it did, so happy days. But yeah, no, I remember it really well. I mean, whatever sort of pilot you are, whether you're flying fast jets for the RAF or flying around the world in big planes, I'm sure everybody remembers their first solo. You know, it's such a milestone. And one of the things for instructing I don't tend to do so much of now is teaching the ab initio students. I'm mostly teaching the instructors. And I still miss that because, you know, seeing somebody go solo or somebody get their PPL that you've taught, the job satisfaction is huge. And I do miss that, even though it's great to teach the instructors and see them teaching others and moving on through their careers. I still miss teaching the beginners. And I think Jane, who's listening, said I did her trial lesson 25 years ago. Jane, I remember
it. Do you know how many people you've sent solo in your time flying, Carol?
Well, I know when we had a bash for my 20,000 hours, I was asked to look up a few facts. And it was somewhere about 600 first solos that I had sent. Yeah, so that was the sort of figures. And they all came back, so that's good.
That's amazing. I wanted to ask, actually, what's your favourite aircraft that you've ever flown?
Well, I've flown lots of different ones, including the tailwheel types, you know, and I had a share in a Luscombe Silvair, which I love dearly. But when I needed to do a CPL, she had to go. So I'm very fond of sort of the little tailwheel types. The Jodelle, there's a beautiful two-seated Jodelle. I really like that. They're just good fun aeroplanes. So, I mean, I suppose if I wanted to be... I'd need two. I'd have something for touring and, you know, something for maybe a Cap 10. I don't know if you know what that is, but it's way out of my price league. But it's a beautiful two-seat. You sit side by side. It's a tailwheel. It looks really sleek and it's aerobatic. And that would be a fun plane just to have for evening flights. And then I'd need something, well, there's no way I'd ever have a Cirrus, but maybe a Piper Arrow or Saratoga for going places would be nice. But this is me dreaming.
This is your fantasy hangar.
Yeah, yeah, exactly.
Very nice.
Richard Kennedy says 600 first solos must equal 6,000 minutes of nail biting.
Well, my fingernails are not too bad at the moment, Richard, but interestingly, there was a sort of legend when I first started instructing called Dick Fox, who used to be a big instructor in our area. And somebody said to him, do you worry when people do their first solo? And he said, no, because I'm not in the plane. So, which was his answer. But, you know, of course you care very much. But if you've done your job properly, it should, and it is only once round, they should hopefully come back and then, you know, happy days, celebrations, and, you know, you remember yours.
Crispin asks, what did you tell people before they do their first solo, apart from the increase in speed as the result of the instructor not being there?
You tell them that the aeroplane will perform noticeably better without you. So it will climb better. So don't get caught out by that. You tell them if there's any doubt, there's no doubt. If there's anything that's not right on final approach, they just go round. And that's a big part of training, to get people to think, go round. If it's not right, go round. And that's basically it. You send them off with a sort of, just say, do what you've been taught, and notice just the increase in performance. And,
very good.
Enjoy.
One last question from the audience. Annabelle asks, what was your most memorable lesson?
My most memorable lesson. Sometimes you end up taking somebody, and I remember taking a helicopter pilot, and he'd been and done everything in the army as a helicopter pilot, and he fought wars and all sorts of things. And I just thought, he's now come to me for a sort of fixed wing lesson. And I just thought, how have I managed to get to this stage where I'm really teaching somebody who I would look up to through what he's done through his training? And that was memorable. But I've met fantastic people through flying. So probably flying with Paul Bonham. I mean, I'm sure most of you have heard of him. He's a Red Bull champion. I think, how have I become so lucky is to end up flying with these people. So, they're very memorable.
Fantastic. Well, there's a couple of comments. Brilliant stuff, Carol. You should look at taking over the safety training contract from Astral next time it's up.
Well, thank you, Richard, for that comment.
And Richard Kennedy says, it's been ages since we had a bad guest, but Carol has been the best in a long while.
Oh, well, it's very kind. Thank you very much. I've enjoyed it. And hopefully, maybe it's just given a few of you something to think about for your flying this spring.
Absolutely tremendous. And I think if no one else has got any other questions, we'll have to say thank you very much, Carol. That's been tremendous. And it's, best of luck with everything you do from now on. And we'll hopefully see you sometime soon. And it's off to Fantasy Hangar for us.
Okay, thank you. Fly safe, everybody.
Thank you.
Thanks, Carol.
There's lots of lovely comments there. Claire B says, fantastic interview. Carol's an absolute legend. She taught me to instruct. I owe her my career. That's really nice. Great talk. Could listen to Carol all night. Super. Thank you, Carol. Tremendous. Hang around in the green room if you like, Carol. We'll catch up with you after the show. Let's make Sarah small, or make everyone the same size. There we go. So, Fancy Hangar. Obviously, the news story about Roban aircraft being placed in protected financial status had us thinking about the history of Roban and all the aircraft they produced. And more importantly, if we were to pick one, what would we pick for our Fantasy Hangar? Who's going to go first? I'm going to nominate Dave. There we go. Dave.
I guess I'm Dave Senior.
Yes, Dave Senior.
So I've chosen the Porsche PFM 3200. This is the DR400 equipped with a Porsche air-cooled six-cylinder engine. It's an ideal engine for flying, really, because the Porsche six-cylinder is a flat six. It's light. It's a fairly straightforward engine. Delivers a lot of power, and it fits straight into the aircraft, more or less. They produced it for a few years, but Porsche got a bit twitchy about liability, so they eventually sort of discontinued it. But it's a great performing aircraft, and this is Mark Hale's flying one, isn't it?
Yes, yeah. Well, Mark Hale's one of our columnists, and I think he still flies it, because there was Porsche tried to. I think they invited owners to sell the engine or to give the engine back to them, and they would give you a new Lycoming. But I think some owners carried on with them and are still finding them perfectly reliable. And I guess parts might be a challenge to get, but
there's plenty of Porsche specialists out there. And Porsche themselves have a great classic department looking after the older cars and older engines.
Yeah,
So I
and
guess
And Mark said this engine is kind of very, very automated and almost turbine smooth. He loves it. So, Sarah, I'm going to put you next. Tell us about your choice.
Sure thing. So I have gone for the DR253 Regent. So it's I believe it's the 6th variant of the DR200, and this particular model, the 253 Regent, was first built in 1969, I believe. And I just think it's a beauty. And the picture, let me just see which picture you've got up. Yeah, so I love this photo. So this photo was taken when Pierre Robin took a group of people in different Robins and they went for a tour through Africa. So I don't know in particular which country this is, but this is them going through the street. And yeah, I just love the 60s glamour of it. And I don't know if you've got that picture there. So that picture of Jacqueline Ariel. So if anyone who doesn't know, really, really famous pilot at her time. She took up flying in 1946. She became an accomplished stunt flyer, test pilot, and she broke quite a few speed records. But I don't think she did that in the Robin. I don't know what she did that in. But yeah, that was my choice.
And the Regent I know was a favourite of Pierre's for touring because it had, we were talking about this before the show started, it was just full of fuel. It had wing tanks and 2 or 3 fuselage tanks and something like 11 or 1,200 nautical miles of range. So if you could sit there for so many hours, you could really go distances.
Yep, I'd have that.
Dave White, tell us about your choice, which I know is a bit personal.
Well, it is ever so slightly biased. The brief was Best Robin. This is Jodel DR1051 Special. DR is Delimonte, the Del in Jodel, and Pierre Robin. This is mine. It's converted from originally an aircraft that came out of the factory with a Potas engine in it. It's now got a Lycoming in it and a slightly modified wing. It's got a wheel at the correct end. It's on a gorgeous strip, as you can see in the background. It's a gorgeous aeroplane, and up until late last year, I had the world's most perfect syndicate partner, who unfortunately has had to give up flying. It's lovely. It's got 3 fuel tanks. My syndicate partner took it to Jerusalem, and he flew over Old Town Jerusalem with 2 other aircraft. One flown by a Muslim, one by a Jew, and he, of course, was Christian. It was fantastic. So it's my perfect aeroplane, and I own it.
That engine and the 100, is it 115 horsepower?
Not that particular. It's a Lycoming 0235, but this variant is 108 horsepower.
Okay, but that's still a useful, because normally you'd be 100 horsepower, wouldn't you? So that must be
5 Potas. So it's very close to the Potas.
Yeah. Excellent. Very good. Well, I've gone a bit left at the lights with mine. Now you'll all be shocked, or maybe not. So there was a time when Pierre Robin, he was on a trip to the USA, and Pierre would always, we know he dabbled. He was big into wood, but also looked at metal. He collaborated with Chris Heinz for the metal Robins. But he also sometimes thought, what the Robin range needs is a delta. So he came up with this. So he'd been in the States and he met John Dyke, who designed the Dyke Delta, and bought a set of plans. And he went, actually, I think we could have a DR that's actually a Delta. And came back and set his workshop foreman, Jacques Mouton, the task of building a prototype for mass production. They made a bunch of modifications to the covering. I think it was composite, all composite instead of fabric. An access ladder, because you had to climb over the wing and stuff. And you even spot there's a Robin style canopy on it that slid forwards. And they looked at it and they went, can we put this into production? And after about 10 hours of flight testing, they abandoned the project. It was difficult to build. And when they looked at it, they went, actually, this is not your average flying club aeroplane. So they just And you can kind of understand why, yeah. And looks great on the Flying Club fleet, brilliant.
No,
but
it doesn't.
terrify everyone, maybe not. So sadly, sorry?
What is that white cylindrical tube sticking vertically out of the wing?
I was looking at that, but I think it's a coffee cup, isn't it?
No, you would think it might just be an object that someone has left on top of the airplane. That, because the undercarriage was retractable, and because the wing was so slim, that's where one of the undercarriage legs would go when it retracted. It would pop up inside that tube on top of the wing. So because there was
about it.
I know.
Instead of flying it for 10 hours and giving up, they should have looked at the drawings for 10 hours and given up.
Yeah, I don't. I'm really pleased. He was a definite pioneer of all sorts of different things, but this was clearly that they stripped it for parts and left it outside the back of the hangar. And apparently, Christophe Robin picked it up and had it in his hangar. His son had it in the Dinero hangar for a while, and so I know someone has restored it to fly now. But that was the Robin that you never got. So. So I guess I'll go looking in the comments. I predicted.
Good ones.
Yeah. Yeah, Ed. Yes, there's going to be no Ed wins, that's for sure. Dave's looks comfortable. Mark Saunders says, I have an HR 100, great aircraft. DR 250, without a doubt. Now, that is a fantastic Robin. What else have we got? DR 400 180, mine. 400s are lovely. Dave's off to a strong start, mixing 400 and Porsche. Dave, bring that to the Jodel flying at Popham this April. Mine's a 400 140B Dolphin, lovely. Yeah, the tail dragger Robins have the same usable load as the 400 with 20 horsepower bigger engines. Sky Driller says, but Dave, did you not shun her for an RV? I know at the moment you still have two, don't you?
Yeah, shush. The wife's next door.
Yeah, no, it's all a rumor. All a rumor. Sarah wins for the 253. Ed loses. Ed's on speed. Ed loses. Ian wins. He's not here. Ed's fallen out of the silly tree and hit every leaf on the way down.
Annabelle wins.
Well, yeah. Well, Annabelle wins. Well, slightly more polite than Martin Lonsdale. That's a bit mean. It's being deliberately cantankerous. What's it say on the tail after Dyke? It says Delta, I think. So Dave wins. No idea which one though. Fantasy, or has he been on his meds? Oh my God, there's a lot of comments. I've lost track. Did he spend too long in California with medicinal substances? Dave Senior wins, young Dave wins, Ed is most interesting, Dave Junior wins, Ed's for originality, Ed loses, Dave Senior, Dave W. Ed, that looks like a mini metro with wings, you lose. Was going to go Dave Senior, but now going with Ed. Oh dear, there's a lot of comments. This Robin thing is popular. DR 250, Dave C wins. I go with Dave W, Dave Senior. I think, well, we're going to call it for a duo Dave wins, maybe. So
it should be a tie for the Daves, I'd say.
Either of the Daves. There we go. Yeah, one of the Daves wins. Ed's gone mad. David Taylor, DR250, taken from Oshkosh to Switzerland. That is impressive. I have a DR220, so erring towards Dave Jr. Fantastic. Well, we're overrunning.
Junior, thank you.
I know. Overrunning, but having a great time. Dave, have we got any events?
Well, there's a Young Aviators Big Day out at Cosford on the 4th. That's Saturday. On Sunday, it's a bit far to go, but there is a first flying of the year we found, which is a breakfast flying in a place called Clonbulloch. I think I'd have no idea if that's how you say it.
It's an island.
It's an island, middle of Ireland. It's just west of Dublin, I think. Clonbulloch.
Fantastic.
Nice.
Well, brilliant. Well, it just remains for me to say thanks to Sky Demon for being our sponsors. Sarah, thanks for being along. Dave, thanks for being along in Ian's absence or Johnny's absence. And to you for all watching, and Carol Cooper for being such a tremendous guest. There was a whole bunch of other comments before we got started on Fancy Hangar. just going, Carol is a very reassuring professional, one of the best guests for a long time. So thoroughly enjoyable interview. So yeah, we enjoyed it. We hope you did too. And we'll see you next week at 7:30 for a live stream. So thanks team, and see you soon.
Thanks very much, everyone.
Bye.